In the heart of Whispering Pines National Forest, a group of friends embarked on a camping trip that would forever change their perception of the wilderness. The dense woods and winding trails seemed like the perfect escape from the city's chaos. But what awaited them was beyond their darkest nightmares. The group consisted of 3 friends, Alex, Sarah, and Jake. With tents pitched and a campfire crackling, their excitement was palpable. The forest was alive with the chorus of crickets and rustling leaves. However, as the sun dipped below the horizon, a sense of unease settled over the campsite. Gathered around the fire, the friends laughed and shared stories, their voices echoing through the woods. Yet each time the laughter died down, an eerie silence seemed to stretch, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. As darkness settled in, the atmosphere grew heavier. The fire's warmth did little to dispel the unease that clung to the air. Alex brushed off the feeling, attributing it to their surroundings, but Sarah's gaze remained fixed on the tree line, her instincts on high alert. Late into the night, a chilling howl pierced the air, stopping the group mid-laugh. Their gazes turned toward the woods where shadows seemed to dance in the darkness. "Just a wolf," Jake quipped, but even he couldn't hide the uncertainty in his voice. Sleep eluded the friends, and their tense vigil continued. Hours passed, and the forest seemed to hold its breath, as if waiting for something. It was then that they heard it, a faint rustling, barely audible over the wind. The friends fell silent, their breath catching in their throats. The rustling grew louder, more distinct, and accompanied by the softest of whispers. Alex's heart raced as he strained to hear, his senses on high alert. The forest seemed to murmur secrets, its voice carried on the wind, words just beyond comprehension. Suddenly, the forest erupted in a cacophony of sound. Branches snapped, leaves rustled, and the whispers grew into a chorus of indistinct voices. Panic surged through the friends as they scrambled to their feet, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. Jake's flashlight beam caught movement at the edge of the campsite. His breath caught as he glimpsed a figure, tall and slender, disappearing into the shadows. "Did you see that?" he exclaimed, his voice trembling. Sarah nodded, her face pale. "We need to leave, now." Without hesitation, the friends began tearing down their campsite, tossing their belongings into their bags. The forest seemed to close in around them, as if eager to trap them within its secrets. As they hurried along the trail, the voices grew fainter, but the feeling of being pursued remained. The woods seemed to twist and shift, as if the trees themselves were watching their every move. Fear drove them forward, their footsteps echoing through the eerie silence. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream shattered the stillness. The friends froze, their eyes wide with terror. The scream was followed by a guttural, inhuman sound that sent shivers down their spines. Heart-pounding, Alex turned his flashlight toward the source of the sound. In its eerie glow, they caught a glimpse of the figure, a humanoid shape, its form contorted and distorted. Its eyes glowed with a malevolent intensity, fixed on the friends with a hunger that sent chills down their spines. With adrenaline coursing through their veins, the friends turned and fled deeper into the forest, their breath ragged and panicked. The woods seemed to close in around them, a labyrinth of darkness that held no escape. Hours later, they stumbled upon a clearing, bathed in the soft light of the moon. The forest's oppressive grasp seemed to loosen, and the figure's presence receded, but the fear remained, etched into their minds like a haunting melody. They finally reached their car, speeding away from Whispering Pines National Forest. Their campsite was a distant memory, replaced by a haunting encounter that defied explanation. The forest's secrets remained hidden, the truth lost in the shadows. To this day, the friends can't shake the feeling of being watched, the memory of the figure's eyes burning into their minds. The forest of Whispering Pines holds its secrets close, and those who dare to venture within might find themselves face to face with the silent predator that lurks in the shadows. In the heart of Blackwood Hollow, a remote and seemingly tranquil camping spot, 3 friends, Emily, Alex, and Chris, embarked on an adventure that would forever change their perception of the wilderness. Their camping trip began with excitement and anticipation. The forest, with its towering trees and rustling leaves, seemed like the perfect escape from the mundane city life. The air was crisp, and the sound of a nearby stream added to the serenity of the surroundings. As the sun dipped below the horizon, The friends gathered around the campfire. The crackling flames cast dancing shadows, and the night was alive with the symphony of chirping crickets. Yet beneath the tranquil facade, an unease seemed to linger, making the forest feel alive with secrets. As they roasted marshmallows and shared stories, Emily couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Her gaze kept drifting to the tree line, as if she expected someone or something to emerge from the darkness. She brushed off the sensation, attributing it to the natural anxiety that darkness often brings. As the night grew deeper, Emily excused herself to relieve herself in the woods. The flashlight's beam cut through the darkness, and the rustling of leaves seemed to amplify her solitude. Just as she was about to return to the campsite, a distant whisper reached her ears. Her heart pounded as she strained to hear. The voice was faint, almost carried away by the wind, but its presence was undeniable. "Help me!" The words seemed to hang in the air, a haunting plea that sent shivers down her spine. Emily rushed back to the campsite, her breath quickening. She hesitated to share her experience, fearing that her friends would dismiss it as her imagination. But as she looked at Alex and Chris, their faces held the same unease she felt. The campfire's light began to wane, and a chill settled in the air. The forest seemed to close in around them, the trees whispering secrets to each other. Emily finally spoke up, recounting the whispered plea she had heard in the woods. Alex and Chris exchanged uneasy glances, and just as doubt began to creep in, a low, mournful howl pierced the night. The sound was unlike anything they had ever heard before, a chilling wail that seemed to echo through the very core of the forest. They scrambled to their feet, their hearts racing. The fire's light cast long shadows that danced with the howling wind. And then, amidst the chorus of night sounds, another sound emerged. Footsteps. Footsteps that seemed to approach from all directions, their rhythm hauntingly deliberate. The friends huddled together, their flashlights flickering in the darkness. As the footsteps drew closer, their panic grew. Suddenly a figure emerged from the shadows, its form indistinct yet unnerving. Its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, fixated on the friends. Chris raised his flashlight, the beam revealing a face that seemed to flicker in and out of existence. The figure's voice was a haunting whisper, barely audible yet filled with an urgency that sent shivers down their spines. "You must leave, before it finds you." Fear and confusion gripped the friends as they stared at the figure, unable to comprehend its words. Before they could respond, the figure's form began to dissipate, the wind carrying it away like smoke. Terrified and disoriented, the friends wasted no time. They grabbed their belongings and fled from Blackwood Hollow, their footsteps echoing through the woods. The forest seemed to release its hold on them, and as they emerged onto a nearby road, they glanced back at the darkness they had escaped. Days later, they still couldn't shake the memory of that night. The figure's words haunted their thoughts, a mystery they couldn't unravel. Blackwood Hollow remained a place of fear and uncertainty, a reminder that the wilderness could hold terrors beyond imagination. To this day, Emily, Alex, and Chris can't explain what they encountered in the heart of Blackwood Hollow. Was it a ghostly presence, a manifestation of the forest history, or something more sinister? The questions remain, a chilling reminder that even in the midst of nature's beauty, there can exist darkness that defies understanding. In the remote wilderness of Midnight Glen, three friends, Lily, Mark, and Sarah, embarked on a camping trip that would unravel the fabric of their reality, plunging them into a nightmarish encounter with the unknown. As they set up their campsite amidst the towering trees, the sense of isolation was palpable. The air was thick with the scent of pine, and the only sounds were the rustling leaves and the distant call of nocturnal creatures. A sense of adventure tingled in the air, but it was accompanied by an underlying unease that none of them could quite shake. Night descended, and the friends gathered around the campfire, sharing stories and laughter. The fire's glow seemed to dance on their faces, casting flickering shadows that elongated with every gust of wind. The forest around them felt alive with hidden movements, as if unseen eyes were watching from the shadows. As the stories continued, Lily's gaze wandered to the forest's edge. She thought she saw a fleeting movement, a shape darting between the trees. She shook off the feeling, chiding herself for succumbing to paranoia. As the night grew deeper, Lily and Mark decided to venture into the woods to gather firewood. The forest was alive with sounds, and the moon's light filtered through the canopy in ethereal patterns. But with each step they took, a sensation of being watched seemed to intensify. They returned to camp with armfuls of wood, their nerves still on edge. As they stoked the fire, a low whisper seemed to rise from the shadows, carrying on the wind. Sarah's eyes widened as she turned to Lily and Mark. "Did you hear that?" The others nodded, and they fell into an uneasy silence, straining to hear more. The whispering grew louder, the words indistinct yet laden with a haunting urgency. "Help us! Find us!" Panic surged through them as the whispers seemed to surround them, as if emanating from the very air itself. The fire's crackling seemed to meld with the whispers, creating a disorienting cacophony that filled their ears. Their flashlights cut through the darkness as they scanned the forest, searching for the source of the eerie voices. And then, amidst the shadows, a figure emerged. Its form was indistinct, shifting like smoke, yet its eyes glowed with an eerie light that seemed to pierce their souls. The figure's voice was a chilling whisper that sent shivers down their spines. "You must listen. They are lost. In between." Lily, Mark, and Sarah exchanged terrified glances. The figure's presence seemed to warp their perception of reality, and the forest itself seemed to twist and contort around them. As they struggled to comprehend the figure's words, their surroundings began to shift. The trees seemed to reach out with skeletal fingers, their branches elongating into grotesque shapes. The whispers intensified, merging with the wind's mournful howls. In a desperate bid to escape, the friends turned and ran, their footsteps pounding through the night. The forest seemed to close in around them, a labyrinth of shadows and echoing whispers that threatened to consume them. Finally, they burst through the tree line, stumbling into an open meadow. The moon's light illuminated their terror-stricken faces, and they collapsed onto the grass, gasping for breath. The whispers were distant now, fading into the background. Days later, as they emerged from Midnight Glen, Lily, Mark, and Sarah struggled to make sense of their ordeal. The forest's whispers and the enigmatic figure haunted their thoughts, leaving them with more questions than answers. To this day, they can't shake the feeling that Midnight Glen holds secrets beyond their understanding. Was it a ghostly encounter, a trick of their imagination, or something even more sinister? The boundaries between reality and the supernatural had blurred that night, leaving them forever changed by the haunting whispers of the forest.